Valley Homes on TV. I'm Todd Flesner, your co-host, along with Debbie Giordano.
Got that?
I got it.
It's a mouthful.
It is. Hey, good to see you, Deb.
Hi, Todd. Good to see you, too.
We appreciate folks tuning in to us here on Channel 26, and we're on 5 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings, and Saturday and Sunday mornings. So hopefully you can catch us and stay up to date with what's going on here in Milpitas.
Yes.
So, Debbie, you've got a guest for us today. Would you like to introduce him?
I do. We've brought in our planning director from the city of Milpitas, Steve McHarris.
Hello, Debbie.
Hello, how are you?
Good, very good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad they let you out of the cubicle or whatever it is that you And I understand you recently gave an interview, talk at the Rotary Club, Milpitas Rotary Club. So.
Yes, the Rotary Club did invite me over for their afternoon luncheon, and we did talk about planning and a little bit about the background of myself and the department.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you can plop down for a few minutes between city business and then off to the Planning Commission meetings. And I know you're a very, very busy man, so I really appreciate the time.
Sure.
Well, let's start. The folks don't know you and maybe get to know you. Tell us a little bit about maybe where you were born and raised and education and your background and what brought you to the city of Milpitas.
Sure, I won't go too far back, but I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. However, I was raised in Southern California in Orange County, and I schooled at Cal Poly Pomona and Cal State Fullerton. And
was that in planning or urban design? Or
well, actually in public administration.
Okay.
And what kind of brought me toward Milpitas was working over the years. I'd worked in Southern California for a number of years in the private sector, working for private consulting firms, and then in the public sector, and actually for the University of California, Irvine.
Oh, nice.
For 10 years. And from there, I came up to the Bay Area, where I took a position with the city of Fremont, and that's where I became familiar with the Bay Area and even Milpitas a little bit. However, my professional journeys brought me over to the Central Coast for the past 10 years. So after being employed with Fremont, I worked for a couple cities on the Central Coast. Coming back to Milpitas, what brought me back here was the economy turning things around, having the economy turn things around.
And Milpitas is exciting.
It's very exciting. There's quite a bit of development going on, quite a bit of planning. It's definitely a place
you know,
to be.
Steve, your background mirrors a lot of our city manager, who had the consulting, the private industry background, coupled with the public sector. Did I hear? Was it some economic development work you did in Fremont?
I did. Well, my past position was with the city of Soledad, and in that position, I was involved with administrating the redevelopment agency and economic development. So my role was economic development and community development, dealing with not just attracting business, working with small business and attracting new business to the community, but also working with planning, the traditional planning role, code enforcement, and building.
Oh, great. Well, we're delighted to have you here in Milpitas, and perhaps you can share with the folks tuning in a little bit about what planning and neighborhood services, what does that do for us here in Milpitas, the citizens?
Sure. Well, planning really kind of organizes and sets a tone and stage for the way the city not only looks today, but how it will look tomorrow. So setting the sights based on the city council's vision for where the city would like to be. So we do deal with economic development in terms of businesses coming in and making sure that we can provide the permitting and services they need to not necessarily just stay here, but also relocate. So we're also obviously very interested in attracting business. We look at development in terms of how it looks, where it goes, what types of uses happen where in the city. Those, again, are all under a general plan that is adopted by the city council. We spend quite a bit of time on design review, so we'll spend time with the way the buildings appear, the materials, color, finishes, the landscaping, the streetscapes. It's very important to us as the public, what we refer to as the public realm, and that's the area of the sidewalks, the streets, everything up to a property line, and then, of course, as properties develop, how those look. So everything fits together to meet the Milpitas vision.
Actually, I was looking at some of your statistics here. The department had 16 employees. Now you have 9. You must be busy.
We're very busy. Like many cities, with the demise of redevelopment and the economic downturn, there were obviously a loss of employees and staffing. So that had occurred here, just like many other cities. And what we're seeing now is this return of demand for development services, and how we approach that now is incrementally. We want to make sure that we have the correct staffing levels for providing the service we need to accommodate the development that's proposed.
So now, is the neighborhood services portion of what you do, is that separate and distinct from the planning function, or are those integrated?
Well, they're somewhat integrated, but they also have very distinct roles. So neighborhood services deals with neighborhood beautification. We acknowledge those individuals and individual properties that have revamped or re-landscaped, or
Which
done something with their
encourages
projects.
the positive aspect of.
More positive, good-looking neighborhoods, solid, stable real estate values go with
I
it.
like
So
that
that's
idea.
something that we really try to spend some time with. We also deal with code enforcement. So we are fairly reactive when we receive calls or issues on certain code enforcement violations or something, that we'll go take a look, check it out, and work with the developers. We're always seeking compliance.
And I think that's an interesting point. There are some neighborhoods that are blighted, or some areas, and I think folks want to understand how they can call, they have to be proactive and call that in. As we as a city, or you don't go out and monitor and have a blight control or patrol or something. So there has to, is it what do you call it, proactive or
Proactive. What we do is we are reactive when it comes to, we don't go looking for it. We have plenty of calls, so we deal with those that call in.
Right.
We are proactive in areas. The example would be our public streets, our main thoroughfares. We want to make sure the main thoroughfares look clean and attractive. So if we see things that are cluttering, littering, or actually even some kind of safety issues, if there are items in the public sidewalk that need to be removed, that are left there for whatever reason, then we'll make sure those sidewalks are clear.
So if folks have a concern, there's a property in the neighborhood that maybe needs to be maintained properly, or graffiti, or some other. So how would they call that in?
Sure, they call into City Hall. They can actually call in any of the City Hall numbers, and they will come in. I know we have some numbers listed here. We have a graffiti hotline, which is 408-586-3079, and the community can just leave a message there. And within a certain amount of time, it's typically within 48 hours, we'll have the graffiti removed, definitely by the end of the week.
Okay. Housing rehab loans. I know folks must be interested in that. How does the housing rehab loan program work?
The rehab loan program does work based on income, so there's certain income criteria. It is a lower income category. So if the person qualifies, and they may not know, they can definitely check in again with City Hall and our department, and anywhere they call, those numbers will be referred to our department. We do have a housing specialist that will work with that individual on their property. And the reason we like doing these things is not just because of affordability issues, but also, again, it's back to keeping the neighborhoods nice, pristine, clean. So if somebody is in need of some rehab assistance, particularly on the outside, where you might have broken window or faded paint or chipping paint, those kinds of things, we can work with them on some very advantageous rates, or rate of returns for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know some of the nonprofit work I've done with Rebuilding Together. We've worked with neighborhood services to help bring in folks to repair and do some maintenance on homes for folks here in Milpitas who may not be able to afford that.
Right.
So,
All right, well, that covers a lot of the existing neighborhoods. Let's talk about the new stuff that's going on. That's the exciting element of this city. I think the city is in a transitional stage, and it's rebirthed into, there's so many dwelling units, housing units that are going into the downtown transit area corridor. Can you explain how that growth is happening? You walked into this job, I believe those were already in the blueprint, already in the general plan. What's going on? Where are we seeing these 5, 6, 7-story buildings, and what's happening there?
Sure. What's going on and what's so interesting about Milpitas, what's so attractive to working in planning in Milpitas and building, is that the vision of Milpitas is to set a certain number of density, meaning a certain number of household units that will be constructed now and into the future in particular areas of the city. And much of it is focused in the transit area. The transit area is the area centered around the future BART station, which is now, those plans are now solidifying. They're actually under construction, and the idea is to place...
we are seeing construction going on now.
Quite a bit of construction, and that is near the Great Mall, which also benefits the Great Mall economically as you place more population in that area. It also takes care of an idle business area, which was a former industrial areas that have now worked through their life expectancy as far as those buildings go, and so those are being replaced with this higher density development. Now, when we talk about residential, we really are talking about higher stories, 5, 6, 7-story buildings. So many of them. Some
Condos,
some
they're
are 3
not
to 4.
single-family homes.
Condos, townhouses, apartments. Many are rental. Some are for sale.
Okay.
Now, would you see a change in the balance or the proportion of jobs to homes here in Milpitas as a result of that development?
That's a good question.
Well, that is a good question. We did analyze, the city did analyze that when they prepared the planning area for the BART station and the transportation areas there. So yes, there is a displacement. However, the job creation, because it's not just residential units, it's also commercial properties. So commercial properties are quite often mixed use, meaning they're actually in the same building, which is also an exciting and different aspect for Milpitas, something new up and coming. So we will see job growth in that area.
Okay, terrific.
So how many new units are planned?
Well, in the transit area, there's actually about 7,100 units planned, and of that, we've entitled, meaning we've taken projects through the Planning Commission City Council level, not necessarily yet in building permit, of a little over half that number.
Wow.
Wow,
Wow.
that's yeah. So we've got a lot more building yet
So
to
there's
come. It
been
looks like
yes, and there's been a very, very positive response to that plan.
terrific. So now, are there plans or proposed then for those other units, or are those just what the planning department envisions being able, in terms of capacity to build
Well,
in
the
the future?
capacity is the 7,100. The actual plans that have gone through, at least so we know what they look like and where they go and how they work, that's about half of that has occurred, with another half possibly to happen over the next, let's say, 5 years or so.
Well, Steve, you got plunked into this job about, what, 8 months ago?
8 months ago,
8
yes.
months ago, with this whole array of things going on, this quagmire of
Yes.
development and general plan. What do you see for the city for the next, say, 3 to 5 years now? What's on the horizon?
Well, I would see some of what we're seeing now. We see some construction coming out of the ground, and I suspect we'll see 3, 4, 5 more buildings of that caliber coming up, and we're talking about the larger buildings. We're also going to see the townhouses, the units, residential units that are about 3 to 4 story units. You'll see some single family. The single family that you do see are the smaller lots, but tall, the 3-story buildings. In commercial, you'll see mixed use, as I mentioned. So it's particularly in the transit area, you're going to see the ground floor on some of these larger buildings be commercial, and that's where you see when you go to other cities that have urban components to them or are urban. You'll see the Starbucks and those
Like a
types of
Santana Row,
it's
or
like similar to a Santana Row. Some areas more so than others. Some will actually be neighborhood serving. In the transit area, we do have an area set aside for grocery, so we have enough square footage, commercial square footage, to accommodate a smaller grocery store that will be able to serve not just the new residents, but the existing folks in that part of
Wow.
our town.
Terrific. So we've been talking about 3 to 5 stories primarily in terms, and the density piece of that.
Yes.
Is there a vision or an opportunity for higher rise buildings in Milpitas, or are there limits on that?
There is. Well, there's some limits and there's some not. We do have some projects that are entitled that are higher than that. I'm really giving you the broad brush of what we're seeing the market
Right.
demand meet, and the market demand seems to be in that area. We do have entitlements for buildings that are taller than that, yet whether they come in for building permit and actually fulfill that vision or not, that will be up to the private sector to determine.
So what other challenges do you have coming?
Well, the
your way?
challenges are always ever-changing as the community and the economic the economics change in the community and in the state and the nation as a whole. So as we see this economic recovery, we see more of this demand. We have demand on residential. As the residential moves in, then we have demand for commercial, which typically follows the residential, so we'll see more of that.
And I imagine
Yes.
traffic is going to become an issue.
Traffic is an issue and always needs to be managed. And Milpitas, of course, we have these highways that run through our community.
Yes.
One is a state highway, which
State
is
highway,
Calaveras. and
connecting 880 and.
we have Montague, that is a county
Connect-
facility, so we work with those agencies. The higher you go, in other words, state, the less response you get for improvements that are, of course, needed. The county level, I know Montague is adding a lane, and so we're working with them as development occurs to be sure that all happens orderly. As far as moving traffic through through the city, that's important to those agencies as well as the city to make sure we can move people where they need to be. The bright side of that is the numbers that run through, the higher those numbers are, the more successful the businesses are along those corridors. So certainly when we talk about Montague
It's always
and
cause and
future
effect
commercial,
of everything, isn't it?
it's fantastic. Some folks think, well, there's a lot of traffic. That's true, but also the benefit is we'll have more services, more commercial development. Of course, that benefits the city as a whole.
Terrific. Well, I know that folks that live and work here in Milpitas love the community. And what if they want to have an opportunity for some input into the process? How do you incorporate that?
Input into the process, certainly we have, the city of Milpitas is almost unique in the terms of how many commissions we have. So we have a number of commissions. In terms of development, at least in our department, we actually staff about 5 different commissions. The ones that might be more interesting to some folks would be, we have an economic development commission, so they deal with commercial, retaining existing business and bringing in new business. We have a bicycle and pedestrian committee or commission that deals with obviously bicycles and sidewalks and people walking. We have our planning commission, of course, which is a key commission, and that deals with many of the development projects that we've been talking about today, as well as, of course, we have.
And
our
those
city-
are open public
those are
meetings?
all of
Folks
these are
can come
open
down to those
public.
meetings?
And we do have our city council. So our city council meets every other week. We have our planning commission that meets every other week. We have commissions that meet once a month. You could take any given week and be able to participate in this process. And then speaking of the open governance, Milpitas goes above and beyond with its open governance in terms of allowing the public to speak or comment on any items, not just advertised public hearing items, which the law requires,
Right.
but
Any
any
item.
items that somebody
that's a good
would
point.
like to speak to.
Well,
Yes.
Steve, you seem like you have a real good handle on the city for 8 months. I've lived here my whole life, and I can't even
There's so much going on,
explain it the
but
way you
this
can.
is what we do.
So you obviously got thrown into the job, and you took
Yes.
the bull by the horns.
Yes.
I want to thank you, Todd and I both want to thank you for being our guest on Valley Homes on TV. So we'd like to give you a T-shirt with our Valley Homes on TV logo.
Terrific, thank you.
And thank you very, very much. Welcome to the city, and we look forward to a long-term relationship with you.
Thank you, and
thank
as
you
do
for
I.
all you do.
You always made sure I brushed my teeth.
You told me that smart was cool.
You always told me to dream big.
To all of those parents who took the time to make raising their children their most important job, we'd like to say,
Thank you.
Thank you.
From the bottom of my heart. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
this message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Valley Homes on TV. I'm Debbie Giordano and Todd Flesner with Guarantee Mortgage. I got that right?
You got it right. That's good.
Yeah. How are you enjoying that new company?
Terrific. It's very, very similar to, what I've always done, which has been able to broker loans, be able to match people up with the right lender for their circumstance. So it provides me that opportunity really to help folks out and not be tied to a particular
That's nice.
branch of or a particular lender.
Great. I know
So-
the folks I boot over to you, they really enjoy working with you. So
Well, I enjoy working with folks and helping them find out what their options are. So
nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I got to share with you, but we're doing our wrap up, our monthly wrap up.
Right.
This is the end of July, and I think maybe we missed June, but on June 14th, San Jose Mercury headlines: home prices keep rising. I mean, that has got to be the talk of the century right now. In fact, I think it was a few days ago I read where prices have risen over 30%.
That's about
the
what I've been hearing as well,
Valley?
25 to 30% here in the Valley. And, for folks who may have purchased when values were down, it looks like, those values have recovered.
But do we see this coming?
I think you and I saw a recovery on the horizon, but I don't know if we saw the rapid increase that we've seen here. It's been about, this last year?
This last year has been tremendous.
It has been.
Yeah. I had an open house on Saturday, priced at $538, and there were about 40 different groups that came through that, and we've got multiple offers, all cash buyer, above the asking price. So it just seems like the momentum is still there for prices. I guess what I want to say is it's still a good time for a buyer to come in. with the good interest rates.
That's correct.
Where we are today with interest rates,
Well,
Todd?
we've seen interest rates actually go up a little bit in the last couple of months, but we're still at very, very affordable rates. We're in the low to mid fours for conforming loans, so 4 3/8, 4.5%, because it fluctuates a little bit on a daily basis. The jumbo conformings are in the higher fours, but those historically are very, very good rates. And you know, we couldn't stay in the threes forever. We knew that that wasn't going to be the case. But you know, when folks take a look at their budgets and what that enables them to purchase, it still helps keep property here in the valley, you know, affordable or more affordable than it has been historically.
And I think part of the pressure on the home pricing, it obviously is demand. So many
Absolutely.
pent-up demand with buyers, lower inventories, but the job growth here is so strong that it's just really been a tremendous factor in home pricing.
Absolutely, and you know, the job numbers you know, we're seeing here locally, but also on a national basis, are part of what has contributed to the increase in interest rates, because it portends a recovery in the economy, and for other investments out there that the dollar is looking for, that means that there's a higher rate of return, and therefore those investing in mortgages are going to seek a higher rate of return
So
as well.
Todd, do you see interest rates continuing to stabilize like this in the low fours, maybe throughout the year, or what do you predict?
Well, you know, it's difficult to say exactly what's going to happen in the future. You know, I think that we're going to stay in a relatively stable sort of environment, at least for the shorter term here. One of the things that caused the spike in rates as well was the Federal Reserve Board and some of their notes here from the most recent meeting talking about the unwinding of the quantitative easing of their mortgage purchase program. You know, they haven't indicated exactly when that's going to be, but have indicated that, you know, they're going to have to taper off of that at some point in time. And so, you know, the market took that signal and said, well, okay, you know, the demand piece of the equation is going to change. So I think part of it is going to be really dependent upon, you know, Fed action in the future. The Fed has indicated they're going to keep prime rate and the Fed funds rate low, you know, throughout 2014. So that piece of the puzzle, I think, is going to, you know, be relatively stable. But there are two key indicators that the Fed's looking at. They're looking at inflation. Their target inflation rate is 2%. We've been about in the ones. So up until the time we see inflation heat up to get to 2% or more, that'll keep their interest rate policy low. The other is unemployment, and the key number there is 6.5%. When we see unemployment rate come down to 6.5%, again, the Fed will start looking real seriously at their interest rate policy.
Nice, interesting. That is interesting. Would you like to see what's going on with home prices?
I'd love to.
That is that has got to be really exciting, particularly for a homeowner here in Milpitas. Let me look at May 2012. What we had for an average price here in Milpitas was $606,000, and a median price was $525,000. That has shifted in a year to May of 2013 statistics of a average price of $696,000 and a median price of $739,000.
Wow, incredible increases.
That is amazing, huh? You've still got that rental, right, that you kept?
I do.
Good for you. Keep it. The condos and townhomes. I always thought that this was fascinating because right now we're building so many of the new condo and townhome product, you know, down in the transit area where BART's coming in and where the Great Mall is. And so I always thought, well, that's going to either depress the existing condo prices.
Or saturation of the market.
Saturate the market. It hasn't done it. The demand for, you know, a condo and townhome, because it's affordable for an entry-level product, is still unbelievable. May 2012, average price was $314,000 and median price was $335,000, and that shifted to May 2013. Won't believe this, we're up to $497,000.
My goodness.
I know, for an average price condo, and $491,000 for a median price. So, you know, we're not going to roll backwards, and I think the market is promising. I think what I'm hearing from a lot of buyers, they're kind of exhausted with the search. You know, they've been beat up with multiple offers, and a few have pulled back. But again, with limited inventory, These prices are still going to remain stagnant the way they are now, and possibly, you know, maybe another 3-5% increase here by the end of the year. So that's what I see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think, you know, again, with interest rates, affordability is still there, and I don't think that the increase in rates have priced that many people out of the market.
No, not that I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I know the folks I'm working with who've got pre-approvals are still active, and they're still looking. And it's just the competition right now to be able to get into a property is pretty significant. So, you know, that's healthy for sellers as well.
Very healthy. Well, let's close the wrap-up. Let's see, we had 2 shows this month. We've got Steve McHarris here with the City of Milpitas Planning Department, and then we interviewed... it
was Madeline with
Intero Real Estate. So that was July's show. And then we've got in August, we have Crown Plaza that's booked. That's going to be showcasing their new hotel expansion here in Milpitas. So.
Oh, terrific. That'll be wonderful. Look forward to that.
Yeah, so if you folks want to send us an email and have a question or a comment on the show, we can certainly address that. And you can send that to me at Giordano, GIORDANODJ, @AOL.com. And Todd, where can folks reach you for?
It's T. Flesner at GM West, like Great Mortgage, thedirectionwest.com.
Great. Thank you folks for watching Valley Homes on TV. Look forward to seeing you again.